Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar Moore here. A few observations to make about the fixture backlog. Watford had their game postponed yet again by Burnley. Well, not by, well, Burnley were the ones that called for the postponing of the game um, by the Premier League. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar Moore here with a comment about the fixture cancellations and backlog. Watford FC had their game postponed yesterday as the Premier League granted Burnley access to a Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar Moore here with a comment about the fixture backlog that has been happening in the Premier League, particularly as it pertains to Watford, but also their opponents, Burnley. Watford, of course, as you know by now, had their game cancelled against Burnley by the Premier League just yesterday. Burnley put in for an application for that cancellation because they had less than 13 players available to field for the game, as is required by the Premier League, the minimum required. And because, of course, as we know, COVID has made a mockery of everything, including, of course, the Premier League. And I have been saying for quite a few weeks that the Premier League should have just had a few weeks off. They really should have until maybe the end of January before this wave of the Omicron variant was able to go through and disappear, or at least calm down a bit, I should say. But that has not happened, and the Premier League has stubbornly continued on with its scheduling. And these games get cancelled sometimes within less than 3 hours of notice. Fans have already traveled to the grounds, and voila, they get to the grounds and find out, oh dearie me, game off. Or they've spent a night at a hotel not far from the ground, and it's oh dearie me, game off. So that's a problem that the Premier League has, and they really think that they should do the right thing. And anyway, January is almost over anyway. But what they should have done is just wipe the schedule clean for the bulk of January and just say, hey, this month we're just not playing any more Premier League football. Now I know that can cause some issues for some clubs for various reasons, but as far as this backlog of fixtures is concerned, I think Watford going to be okay with this. I mean, obviously, there's still 3 games extra they have to play, or 3 games they've yet to have played that will be scheduled into the schedule at some point very soon. The game against Crystal Palace, the game against Wolves, and the game against Burnley at Turf Moor. And those games will be put into the schedule where they can be. 3 games is not impossible in terms of schedule, and there'll be a bit of congestion with it, obviously, for Watford. But Watford aren't in any other competitions. They've got no reason to be concerned about it. And the squad, hopefully, by the time these games all get rescheduled in the fixtures list, I'm sure that Watford will have back a number of other players to help with squad depth so that they can accommodate the glut of fixtures that will happen. I mean, 3 games, 2 of them away from home, 1 at home. I guess it's not terrible. Although Burnley's situation, I would not be that excited about having 5 games in hand. And although that's only 2 more games in hand than Watford have, Burnley have an interesting problem here. At first glance, it doesn't appear that it would be a problem, but they've got 5 games in hand. 4 of them are at home, 4 games at home, 1 away from home. The 1 away from home is at Villa, and the other 4 games are home against the likes of Leicester and Spurs, for example. Those are 2 of the games I can think of off the top of my head. And obviously, Watford is one of the other games that they have at home. It's difficult to win 4 home games in a row. Now, granted, the Premier League is not going to schedule those games so that they all play 4 times in a row, that Burnley's going to play 4 consecutive home games. But because they have 4 home games to play, it is very likely that there will be a week or two where they do actually play 3 home games in a row. Actually, given the already made up fixture list, that is very difficult to do, to win 3 consecutive home games in the space of a week or two. That's not easy to do. Now, some teams, of course, have no problem winning consecutive games at home in a week or in a month. We just asked Manchester City how that has become an easy thing for them to do over the years. Liverpool too, the previous season when the season or two before when they won the championship. Excuse me, the championship. Oh yeah, the Champions League, and then they won the Premier League. They were winning all kinds of games. They won something like 60 odd plus consecutive games at home. So it's easy for teams like that. But when you're talking about winning those home games in a very condensed period of time, say in 1 week, it becomes more of a challenge. It'll be interesting to see how Burnley deal with that. From a Watford standpoint, that's the only reason I mention it. The only reason I mention Burnley at all is because, of course, Burnley are at the bottom of the Premier League table as of right this moment when I record this video. And Watford are in the 17th spot, just outside the bottom three. And of course, every game from here on, for the next few weeks at least, we are, as Watford fans, going to be watching the progress of Watford as well as these three teams below us. And what's interesting about it is that I just think of the championship last season. Now, Watford were in the championship last season, and let's hope that they stay where they are in the Premier League this season. Because if the season ended now, Watford would have another season in the Premier League. But last season in the championship, Rotherham had, I remember this very clearly, something like 5 games in hand, and they were in a relegation fight as well. And five of the 4 of those 5 games were at home. And Rotherham ended up losing 3 of the 4 home games, or at least certainly dropping points in all the home games except one. They may have dropped points and had a draw in that game, and then lost 2 other games or 3 other games, something like that. But they lost, at least I think it actually was, they lost 3 of their 4 home games that they had in hand. And I think they only got a draw out of the other one, or they got a defeat in the other. And Rotherham last season ended up going down. Now, look, Premier League and Championship are different, but it goes to my point is the amount of fixtures that you have in hand, and you have to play those games toward the end of a season. Let's face it now, Burnley have only played 17 games. They have obviously a lot of games to play. They've got 21 games to play. And that is a lot of fixtures to cram into the final 4.5 months of the season. And that's going to be a lot of pressure on a team that already does not have enough players fit to even play. I don't know what the Premier League is going to do about that, but that's a real issue. And Watford, I hope now, will be able to deal with the fixtures that they have to play. I'm looking for Watford to be able to do that. Look on the bright side right now. Christian Kabasele can't be that far away from being back. In fact, he is back. He's been on the bench actually for Watford in the last Premier League game against Newcastle. He was on the bench, so he is able to play if you need him. And you've got Peter Atebo, who is making great strides in his progress to coming back from an injury that has kept him out for a number of months now, and he may well be back on the pitch for Watford in the next few weeks, perhaps before the end of the month even. He's already returned to training with the team, and I think that's a really good thing because Atebo's injury was quite serious. So it'll be good to see him back when he is able to shortly. And then you've got other players who should be coming back. Hopefully, in the next few weeks, we'll see the likes of Ismail Assar, although, apparently there are reports saying that he's still a little bit of a way off, but you never know. You never know what happens with all of this. Hopefully, Ismail Assar can be back sometime in February. I think that would be great. I mean, even if it's the end of February, I think every Watford fan would take that. We'd like to see Saar back. It just gives us his return, gives us obviously a lot more of a dimension, a lot more to think about, and a stronger and fortified team and a deeper team. Because when these fixtures come up and then they get rescheduled and they get scheduled back in, we're going to need squad depth. And we will see, by the way, if the Watford board does any more deals with that in mind, because they did an excellent trio of deals getting in these 3 players, the SKK group, as I call them. They've done an excellent job so far. After one Premier League match, they've set the place alight with their play. The SKK group, Samir, Kayembe, and Kamara have been outstanding. Let's hope they can continue that particular great form that they've had. The SKK group buzzing away, hopefully this Friday at the Vic against Norwich City. And I would really like to see how that continues. I really would like to see their success continue and the team's success. Let's build off of this point against Newcastle, shall we? Let's do that this weekend against Norwich. And, with the fixture list and everything else, I think Watford will be okay. As long as if Watford can get another player in Before this transfer window shuts at the end of the month, then great. I mean, if they can get another two, great. But it's probably unlikely that they're going to get too many more players. At this point in January, it's not easy to get a glut of players. It's not as if you're going to be bringing in 7 or 8 players in January. That normally doesn't happen. It's typically 2 players, 3 players, or maybe 4 players in the month of January, but very rarely does it go beyond that in January because everybody is at a premium. To get good players, it's at a premium to do so. But we'll see how Watford fare in these next few days before the end of the month. By the end of the month, and the transfer window shuts, it would be very good to see how well Watford do. I think so far, wow, those 3 signings that Watford did, it's proven to be so very important. And if we could ever get back Nkulu, who I think is a very good defender, Nkulu, who got injured against Manchester United back in November, was really doing very well with very limited experience in England, if at all. He was doing superbly well. I would like to see him back as well as a fortified backup to Cathcart and Samir. I think Samir, wow, Samir was really good the other day, wasn't he? Goodness gracious me. Is it what a difference that 3 additions make to a team. My goodness, left back, center back, and defensive midfield. Wow, that's just keep going, Watford. We have some work to do here. And it starts this weekend, of course. And I'll be talking more about Watford versus Norwich later on in the week, of course, for the Friday focus, when in fact, Friday is when they play Norwich, as I said. So that will be, of course, a special evening at the Vic because Graham Taylor will be honored, our greatest ever manager. Looking forward to that one. And for those of you at the Vic, I'm sure you'll have a good time watching our tribute to our greatest ever manager, Graham Taylor. And always an emotional night and always a special night as well as we remember and celebrate Graham and everything he's done for this football club, Watford FC. So that's it for now. And I'll be back later in the week with the Friday Focus. Until then,